A group of black farmers in Mpumalanga are at their wits' end. They've been trying to fight eviction notices after refusing to pay admin fees of 250,000 rand to renew their expired leases at state-owned farms. The group have tried to get help from the Agriculture Ministry as well as from the Public Protector to no avail. What are their legal options here? I'm joined via Zoom by lawyer Wilmien Wickham from the Legal Resources Centre. Wilmien, you deal with cases similar to this on a regular basis. When a lease is up for a farmer leasing state-owned farmland, what procedure is supposed to be followed, and is that often flouted?
Yes, so it depends on what kind of lease people, these specific farmers are granted. So they're normally supposed to be granted a 30-year lease, and that is in terms of a policy that the department has been applying for a number of years now. The problem is, and this is a problem for many land reform beneficiaries, both those who have been able to get into the system and those left out, is that there is no legislation that's guiding any of this redistribution of land, whether state land or other land that the state has acquired for this purpose. There never has been legislation. So, you know, the department has been doing this kind of redistribution through a series of policies, and we've seen many over the years. These are often unpublished, often, you know, followed in a very ad hoc way. I mean, what we see in Mpumalanga is, in a sense, unique to that province. In every province, you see different forms of irregularities. And that's really because there's no legislation guiding officials, which enables some to be able to partake in corrupt practices. And in other instances, you know, officials just can't make good decisions because there's nothing guiding them. And this is a systemic problem.
Sorry, Wilmien, would you characterize a 250,000 administration fee as an irregular or corrupt practice?
Well, that is certainly not something that appears in any of the policies that the department is supposed to be adhering to at the moment. Again, we won't know. There might be a policy that we've never seen that they are enforcing, but this is part of the problem. So, and as far as I am aware, and I often deal with land reform beneficiaries, this is not a regular practice, and I would definitely think that there is something corrupt and untoward, you know, even something of a constructive eviction, trying to force farmers off the farm here, which certainly seems irregular.
The Minister of Agriculture and Land Reform, Thoko Didiza, has admitted that departmental officials do not have the necessary expertise to manage the vast land portfolio of state-owned farms. What is being done to remove inept or corrupt officials from their positions and appoint people with the necessary skills? And moreover, as you've said, to put in place the necessary policy to guide these kinds of procedures?
So I would say, in my experience, over the last year and a half, under Minister Didiza, there's for the first time been a willingness to admit fault, because, you know, these stories pop up all the time. And that's a step forward. But now, you know, we need to see those measures put in place to change this. Now, it is certainly true that there is not the skills within the department to make the kind of difficult decisions as to who should get land and under what terms. Now, we have seen lots of promises of action taken against departmental officials. We've seen fewer actual examples of such actions being taken, but we wait to see. More promises have been made in the last weeks or so. Unfortunately, when the SIU sometimes have been called in, the Special Investigation Unit, to investigate corrupt practices within the department, you often see the land reform beneficiaries who, by no fault of their own, were, you know, the beneficiaries of something corrupt within the department. They're the ones bearing the brunt. They're the ones being evicted from their farms, and the officials seem to get away with it time and again. So not a lot has happened in that regard. Yeah. When it comes to bringing in legislation, which we think will really be a solution, the Kgalema Motlanthe high-level panel recommended it a couple of years ago. We've seen no movement on that, and, you know, that really, I think, is where Minister Didiza can make a real difference.
I think one thing that the COVID-19 pandemic did for agriculture specifically is highlight how absolutely dependent we are on local farmers for food security. But it seems to me that a situation like this, where legislation is seriously lacking, endangers valuable progress made in transformation of the agricultural sector, as well as threatening job creation and food security. So is it a lack of political will, or is it just that the wheels turn very slowly?
At the moment, unfortunately, it looks like it's a lack of political will, because we've not even heard the minister committing to making that kind of legislation available or putting it on the table. And I mean, as you say, you know, in the interest of food security, we need the right people to get access to this land, and we need them to have tenure security, not be threatened at every turn with being evicted, because, you know, no one can farm that like that. We know that, and it's become a real threat.
What can pressure groups, firstly, are there enough pressure groups speaking to not only the department but to higher levels of panels discussing these issues? And what can these pressure groups further do or do more to increase that pressure, to maybe speed up political will?
So I think one of the things that has made it really difficult for land reform beneficiaries under redistribution to speak out, a couple of things. One is that they are dependent on the department for their leases. And as you can see, those leases are quite precarious. So it's very difficult for someone who's dependent on the department to at the same time speak out, you know, unless they come under extreme pressure, like the Mpumalanga group. And so that power relationship between the department and land reform beneficiaries is really problematic, and you know, puts people at the mercy of the department. The other problem, I think, is that the practices vary so significantly from province to province and district to district, because there's no uniform legislation. And it makes it difficult for people to find patterns and take that to the department. So that, I think, is something important that, and I think it's happening now, that farmers in different provinces are reading about each other in the media. I think the media is playing an important role here. And that, you know, it can lead to some groundswell to get the department to act. The matter is quite politicized, as with everything in land. And, you know, that can have its benefits, but one is always wary of party politics playing a more damaging role in something like this. But at the moment, I think the land reform beneficiaries probably need all the help they can get.
Well, thank you very much for your insights. That was lawyer Wilmien Wickham from the Legal Resources Centre.